Number 6. Markeith Lloyd. A Florida judge sentenced 46-year-old Markeith Lloyd to death in early March of 2022, roughly 5 years after he'd gunned down his ex-girlfriend and an Orlando police officer. In January of 2017, Lloyd was on the run as a wanted man for the death of his pregnant ex, Sade Dixon, who'd been fatally shot in December of the previous year. On January the 9th, a Walmart shopper spotted him and alerted 42-year-old Lieutenant Deborah Clayton, who was also at the store. She tried to confront Lloyd outside, but he opened fire on her. Clayton was shot 4 times, with the final fatal round released as Lloyd was standing over her in the parking lot. After a 9-day manhunt, officers found him hiding under a home. He allegedly resisted arrest and was taken into custody with force, resulting in him losing an eye and suffering brain damage. During his initial court appearance, he stated that he planned to represent himself and directed a profanity-laced outburst at the judge and present law enforcement, claiming that he'd been a victim of police brutality. Lloyd maintained that he never tried to resist as he crawled into the road from under the home, and in reference to the officers said, "They done took my eye, broke my nose, broke my jaw." He cursed at the judge directly upon being removed from the courtroom. The man's mental health came into question throughout the trial, and a clinical psychologist noted that Lloyd suffered from the delusional belief that he was a slave whom his masters, the judge and prosecutors, were intent on destroying. In 2019, Lloyd was sentenced to life in prison after being convicted on multiple charges in connection to Dixon's death. 3 years later, he was given the death penalty for the Clayton slaying. As the latter sentence was handed down, much like his initial court appearance, Lloyd once again verbally lashed out in the courtroom. Number 5. Olivia Lara. A courtroom in Fall River, Massachusetts, was cleared in January of 2014 following the emotional outburst of a woman facing human trafficking charges. 38-year-old Olivia Lara was accused of procuring teenage escorts for the patrons of a Fall River bar and then driving them to meet their clients. Lara started crying when a judge set her cash bond at $100,000. She professed her innocence and repeatedly sobbed, "I didn't do it," as she was being led out of the courtroom. In a video-recorded incident, Lara then began screaming and thrashing uncontrollably. As she reached the door, she threw herself to the floor, and 2 officers struggled to bring her under control while simultaneously clearing the room. In 2018, she pleaded guilty to the lesser crime of deriving support from escort services. She was sentenced to 3 years. She'd already served in jail while her case was pending and was released on bail. Number 4. Kendrick Keanti Gregory. Following his extradition from New York City, Kendrick Keanti Gregory appeared in a courtroom in North Carolina in connection to a crime spree he'd been accused of carrying out in Raleigh in August of 2015. At the time, 21-year-old Gregory was on probation for an unrelated case for breaking into 2 vehicles. His rampage began with the fatal shooting of 64-year-old Thomas Melvin Durand, owner of the Mr. Pawn check-cashing shop on Capitol Boulevard. After the shooting, he assaulted and abused a female teenager before robbing and non-fatally shooting another man. 2 days later, the police used a mobile app to track an SUV that had been reported stolen in Manhattan and arrested Gregory in Brooklyn without incident. They retrieved 1 handgun from his pocket and found another under the driver's seat. In October of 2015, he was indicted by a Wake County jury on 10 charges, including murder, assault, robbery, and kidnapping. As he entered the room during a subsequent court appearance, Gregory yelled out, "Tell the Illuminati I am the Antichrist. I'm here to take over the world," while having a crazed look in his eyes. At the end of what was a brief hearing, he stated the Empire State Building was going up in flames. His mother told a media outlet that he suffered from mental health issues and that he had previously been in and out of medical facilities. Gregory was eventually sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Number 3. Kweohuru Govan. In February of 2004, Sharabia Thomas left her home in Brooklyn, New York City and headed for school, never to be seen alive again. She was found inside 2 laundry bags on the side of an alleyway adjacent to 130 Palmetto Street in Bushwick. Thomas, at the time in her late teens, had been restrained at the wrists and ankles, had suffered blunt force trauma to her head and torso before having her neck fatally compressed. The following year, the dismembered remains of Bushwick resident Rashawn Brazel, who was also in his late teens, were discovered in a subway tunnel and at a Brooklyn recycling plant. His head was never found. Thomas's murder went cold until 2016, when DNA material from her nail clippings linked 38-year-old Kwehuru Govan to the crime. The man, whom at the time was imprisoned in Florida on an armed robbery charge, was charged with murder. A personal notebook with the sketch of a chair-like device meant to restrain women during intimate encounters was found among his personal items, and the restraints in the design matched the ligature markings found on Thomas's arms. The following year, DNA also linked Govan to the murder of Brazel, who was his neighbor and who lived within blocks of Thomas. Law enforcement feared they were dealing with a serial killer who could have claimed more victims in Florida, California, and New York. After being charged with the second cold case killing, Govan had an outburst when he was arraigned in court on February the 22nd of 2017. He refused to be fingerprinted by administrative workers and had to be hauled into the courtroom by a dozen police officers who hoisted him off the floor while he was in handcuffs and shackles. Govan kept screaming at reporters that he was being framed, also professing his innocence to the judge and claiming that he couldn't even dissect a frog. In another bizarre episode, during a court appearance on March the 3rd, he reportedly mouthed, "You know I love you," to Brazel's mother. As of subsequent updates, he was convicted of killing Thomas and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison in September of 2018, with the Brazel case still pending. Number 2. Kamil Kowalski. Polish national Kamil Kowalski was enraged at the prospect of being hauled off to Teesside Magistrates Court in Middlesbrough, England, for breaching a restraining order that barred him from contacting his ex. He threatened that he would set himself ablaze in court, which led to staff removing flammable substances from the room. During his hearing in July of 2020, 38-year-old Kowalski snuck hand sanitizer and a cigarette lighter inside the courtroom. Midway through his case, as he sat before District Judge Timothy Capstick, Kowalski poured the liquid on his left arm and then set it ablaze. In the moments that followed, he ran towards the bench, knocking over a clerk. Fortunately, officers were on alert due to his previous threats and promptly took control of Kowalski. They also put out the fire before any major damage was done. The incident was deemed an extraordinary outburst by Kowalski's own defense lawyer. The culprit himself later mentioned that he'd been trying to bring attention to what he'd felt was unfair treatment by the courts system. Kowalski maintained that he'd been trying to get people to listen to him and that he'd only tried to harm himself. He subsequently pleaded guilty to multiple charges that included assault, affray, and using threatening behavior. Number 1. Luis Enrique Monroy Bracamontes. On October the 24th of 2014, Luis Enrique Monroy Bracamontes, a Mexican immigrant living in the U.S. illegally, went on a rampage that resulted in the death of 2 Northern California sheriff's deputies. He and his wife, Janelle Marquez Monroy, were in a car in the parking lot of a Motel 6 in Sacramento. Their vehicle was approached by Sacramento Deputy Danny Oliver, aged 47. Bracamontes shot and killed Oliver with a 9mm handgun before he and his wife committed a series of carjackings. One motorist was shot in the head when he resisted but ultimately survived. The couple, both in their 30s at the time, crossed into Placer County. Bracamontes gunned down Deputy Michael Davis Jr. and seriously wounded Deputy Charles Bardo using an AR-15 assault rifle. The former's death tragically reflected that of his father, Michael Davis Sr., who was reportedly killed on a law enforcement job on the same day in 1988. Following a manhunt in the area, the couple were taken into custody. Bracamontes' ensuing trial will attract considerable media attention, in no small part due to his courtroom outbursts. Arguably the most terrifying of them occurred on the second day of his trial in January of 2018. Even though he'd entered a not guilty plea, Bracamontes began smiling and laughing in court as he admitted to killing the deputies. He also claimed that he felt no regret and said, "I will break out soon and I will kill more." As Bracamontes was escorted out of the courtroom, he told the jurors, "I am going to kill one of you." Later on, in another outburst, he launched a rant laden with 23 expletives at the judge and jury, as well as the dead cops and their stupid families. Bracamontes was convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances and sentenced to death. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have Forrest Gump as a defense lawyer or Hannibal Lecter as a personal chef? Let us know in the comments section below.